Hello. So we are back with the other half of the Beauty and the Beast segment. Um, this one will go over a lot of the miscellaneous type things like the Kingdom Hearts, the Wreck-It Ralph, the Sophia the First, the House of Mouse type of stuff, and then I will do the live action things, which would be the Once Upon a Time stuff, of course, and then the live action remake that they did in 2017. Okay, so Um, you may have noticed an addition on the wall behind me. That is a pretty metal butterfly that I got the other day at one of the garden things that I went to. It was an exhibit about folklore and fairy tale stuff at one of the big giant indoor greenhouse garden type things not near where I live. I live in Lincoln. We were in Omaha at Lorenzen Gardens, so the exhibit's supposed to go on for a while. So if this video pops up and the exhibit is still going at Lorenzen Gardens, if you live in Omaha or Nebraska, I advise that you go look at it. I might do a video about it because there was a lot of folklore and fairy tale stuff because that was the theme of it, and I might do a way of connecting that back to either Disney itself or anime because there's some stuff in there that can be connected to One Piece and some other stuff, but we'll see what happens with that. First, I gotta look through and figure out the best pictures for it because I just kind of also just took a lot of pretty pictures of orchids because I like orchids and they were all over the place. But they had like kitsune stuff and dragons and mermaid stuff and a whole bunch of other forest type things. So, but that'll be a different video at some point. Okay, so back to Beauty and the Beast. So first we'll do the Kingdom Hearts stuff. The first character that you're actually introduced to from Beauty and the Beast in Kingdom Hearts is Beast. You meet him. He's not in his world, which I don't remember exactly what the world that he is from is specifically called. That might be a little bit further in my notes, but you meet him in the Hollow Bastion world, which is this castle world that Maleficent controls, where it's kind of where some of the climactic battles at the end of the game happen. You fight Maleficent here. You fight the main baddie, Xehanort. You have to fight a possessed version of like Sora's best friend. Kingdom Hearts is kind of a confusing thing. So actually Kingdom Hearts and Once Upon a Time can probably kind of go hand in hand with some things. Because you have a character that goes into being a villain and then gets redeemed and suffers and then works on redeeming himself and then he's a hero by the end of it. You have lost loves and Disney characters running around. So, Kingdom Hearts, Once Upon a Time can kind of work together. But you meet Beast, and he's trying to find Belle because Maleficent has taken Belle because Belle is a princess of heart, and Beast is trying to save Belle. You do see Belle in this world. You first see her trapped in like a cryogenic chamber type thing along with the other princesses of heart. And then Beast, of course, wants to save her. And at one point you defeat Maleficent and you defeat something else. And then all the princesses are freed from their sleep, but they're still kind of trapped in the castle because like their worlds are kind of either gone or just, they can't get back to them yet. And you talk to each of the princesses and you do see Belle. And then you fight through stuff. Beast is, helpful to Sora and the party and everything. And he's actually a rather good one to have in the party for a while. You interact with Beast at other points in time when you like do some of the memory-based games. And then you do end up going to Beast's world, which I do not remember what the world is called, but you do go there at one point. And this is after Beast and you have interacted in the first place, so Beast knows who you are. You get to run around his castle, and you have to help Beast protect Belle from one of the other bad guys in the series. There's an organization called Organization 13, which is a bunch of people who kind of want the Heartless to work. They want to destroy everything for various reasons, and you have to fight one of them to protect Belle. And you fight in the ballroom, and you fight all around the castle, and you get to see all the different objects, Cogsworth, Lumiere, Mrs. Potts, Chip, I think Sultan's there. I don't remember if you see Fifi or not, the feather duster, but you run around the castle and everything. And you try to help find Belle and protect Belle, and the rose, of course, the bell jar. I think at one point the baddie ends up trying to force Beast to pick between Belle and the bell jar. But pick between Belle and the rose, and Beast chooses Belle. in order to protect her. I do know that I think it's at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2, because I don't think I know Belle and Beast were not in Kingdom Hearts 3 beyond like flashes from memory. But I do believe at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2, you do see kind of the end result of the movie of, Beast, the rest of the fairy tale played out for Belle and Beast, and, the spell was broken, and Beast gets turned back into his human form, and then they're, of course, happy there. Belle and Beast, then we move on to House of Mouse. Belle and Beast pop up a couple of times in House of Mouse. At one point, Beast has a weird dinner with Cruella, which is just kind of like, she's like, I like your fur. And then I remember there was like this weird joke that they did in one of the episodes where it's just like the crowd is turning ugly, and it's a joke because it's the evil queen from Snow White turns into like her hag form, and then Beast goes from his prince form into his beast form, and then I think some of the other ones that have like form changes, I think Maleficent turns into her dragon form and stuff like that. I was like, the crowd's turning ugly, so they all shift into their more terrifying forms, which is just a sight gag type thing. Beast and Belle, I don't remember ever them being any particular big parts of House of Mouse. I know that in the it was in the Mickey's Magical Christmas Snowed-In at the House of Mouse type of thing, which I will talk more about in length when I talk about the House of Mouse, but later. Mickey does like this, talks to people on the street and finds out what they want for Christmas, and like, the different characters want different things. And Beast, Mickey talks to Beast and Belle, and Beast says, I just want, everyone to have a happy Christmas type thing. So, we see I think mostly we see Beast in his beast form, of course, in the House of Mouse. I don't remember if we see him in his prince form very often. Usually it's to result in a sight gag type thing. Not too much there. We do see Belle pop up in Sophia the First. Again, haven't watched Sophia the First. Don't 100% know what exactly the plot of that episode is. I'm assuming it involves, making sure that she, looks inside for, that beauty is more than skin deep type of thing. Which kind of all the princesses kind of show that, for the most part. Beauty, yeah, you can be beautiful on the outside, but if you got nothing in here, no good heart, then, it's not the best thing in the world. And Belle kind of also starts to show, you need to have brains help too. I mean, Ariel is definitely leagues ahead of, like, Snow White in regards to, like, the street smarts. Leagues ahead of Snow White. But Belle and Ariel would probably get along rather well, because Belle knows so much about the human world, of course, but then Ariel wants to learn about the human world. So I'm sure that Belle and Ariel would probably get along rather well. Let's see. Then we have Wreck-It Ralph. Belle, of course, appears in Wreck-It Ralph in the Oh My Disney area, where she is, meets Vanellope and everything, and we have, she is one of the princesses that was, she wasn't cursed, but she was kind of enslaved or kidnapped type thing. And she has daddy issues, which her and her father get along really well. So I wouldn't qualify. I don't think she may not have had one of the ones that has daddy issues. But her and Maurice get along well. So I wouldn't qualify Belle as one of the ones with daddy issues. Ariel, yes. Definitely yes. Jasmine, a little bit. Because Maurice was very encouraging of Belle for the most part. I mean, like, I understand him not wanting her to, be trapped in the castle forever. So that's understandable. That's not the protective father of, oh, I don't want my little girl to leave the nest. It's, I don't want my little girl to be trapped in a weird castle with a monster for undetermined amount of time. So, yeah, that was that. Of course, Vanellope ends up interacting with all of them in the waiting room area, and of course they all get into their casual outfits. And Belle's is, I couldn't really find a good picture of Belle's outfit, but hers says BFF, which is Beast Friends Forever, which of course references to Beast, of course. I think her outfit may have had a rose on it somewhere. It's kind of golden outfit, so it's supposed to match her dress, of course, because Belle, of course, when we see her in the Oh My Disney area, is in her golden dress. She is one of the ones that, of course, helps when, when Ralph is falling and everything. I don't remember what she contributes exactly. Oh, Belle, Ariel, Tiana, and Cinderella all use their gowns as parachutes to help Ralph safely land, which is just kind of funny. Um, um, let's see here. Was there anything else for like miscellaneous animation that they did with Beauty and the Beast that I can think of? I don't think so. I mean, as I said, Kingdom Hearts, they use different melodies, of course, from Beauty and the Beast in the Kingdom Hearts areas, where, particularly in the world, I know that you fight in the ballroom and fight one of the bosses of the castle in the ballroom, but I don't remember if they use, the Beauty and the Beast theme at any point to have like Belle and Beast dance. I think they kind of recreated that because that was one of the things that they did a bit with some of the Disney movies for the Kingdom Hearts stuff. Is sometimes they will kind of do a recreation of that, because I know because in the Little Mermaid world you do sing Under the Sea, you sing Part of Your World, or you help Ariel sing them. I don't remember if they do anything like that in Beauty and the Beast. There's not really. I mean, you like run around with like the servants kind of follow you around, or you have to find the servants and help them at various points. I guess now we move on to the live action stuff. So that gives us Beauty and the Beast, the live action movie. So we'll do that one first. That came out in 2017. Of course, it's the same basic story as the original, except we get a little bit more of backstory on certain things. Maurice seems to be less of the crazy over on top inventor, and he's more of he makes more little intricate clockwork music box type things. Because when we're introduced to Maurice, we of course see him working on this very intricate little music box thing. That is supposed to be based on, he had been a painter and he had been in love and he had his wife and daughter and they were happy, and it's a short moment in time. We still get all the songs for the most part of there. We still get Belle sung by Belle and the villagers and everything. We do get a little bit more of a backstory into, we actually kind of get to see what happens with the prince and when he's cursed. And the Enchantress actually becomes a little bit more of a character in this story than she was in the original story. Because in the original story, she's just at the beginning of the movie, she shows up, old hag, prince turns her away, and then she curses him and turns him into the beast. In this one, we get a little bit more of the Enchantress and everything, which I'll go over. We get a little bit more of Gaston's backstory. He had been off in a war, and he very much likes to console widows and everything. So he's still very much a player. We get a little bit more development on some of the other characters in the town, because at one point in the town, Maurice goes off to be part of the fair. Because he made the music box, and the music box plays, How Does a Moment Last Forever? And they do throw in another reference to the fairy tale in this one, to the kind of the basic fairy tale in this one is, when Maurice is leaving, he asks Belle if there's anything that he could bring back for her from the fair, and she wants a rose, because I think it's supposed to be that's her favorite flower and everything. And in the actual fairy tale of Beauty and the Beast, Maurice character, the character that is the father of Belle and her sisters, and the basic story of it is, he asks each girl what they want. One of the girls wants a new umbrella, one of the girls wants a new dress, and Belle just wants, a rose, the simple thing. And, and he's like, the same thing you request every year. And she goes, and every year you bring it. And every year he comes back with the rose for her to have. We do get a little bit of song from Maurice, the How Does a Moment Last Forever, as I sang, which the music box plays. Um, Belle seems to know that there was something that happened to her mother, and she seems to understand that her mother is dead. But we don't get a whole explanation as to how her mother died. At this point in the movie, we don't get that explanation. Maurice goes off, and he still ends up at the castle, of course. Um, but first, we get a little bit more of dealing with Gaston, and he doesn't outright just have like the whole wedding planned and everything for him and Beau, which is, I guess, a step better because it's not like assuming that she's going to say yes, of course. Um, but Belle makes kind of a washing machine type thing, which is like a barrel with water and soap in it that she put in, and then she attaches it to like a mule, and then the mule walks in a circle, and spins the laundry as it washes it to help, so Belle doesn't have to spend the time washing it. She'll just have to take it out and rinse it at some point. And so she's doing that. And we see her try to teach this other little girl in the village how to read. And of course, the other people in the village don't like this because, it's not proper for a girl to read. It's one thing to have Belle read. It's another thing for her to try to teach another girl how to read. Because, reading at this point in time was looked upon for something for, yes, like the higher echelons of people to know, or boys for the most part. It was, considered appropriate for boys to know how to read and write. Girls, not so much, at that point in time. Which, Maurice obviously doesn't care. He's like, I'm just going to teach Belle how to read because she wants to read. And then we see Maurice, he goes off into the forest and everything, and he gets lost, and then he ends up at the castle after he gets, of course, chased by wolves again. And he ends up at the castle, and he makes his way inside. And he's trying to, he makes his way inside because he's going to warm up and everything. And we don't get introduced right away to, like, Cogsworth and Lumiere and everything. Maurice finds his way into the castle and finds a table set with food and a single place setting. And he goes in and he's ready to start eating. And there's this little dinner cup, this little cup on the table. And unfortunately it moves. And then it talks. And it's like, I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to move. I'm sorry. Please don't run away. And Maurice is just like, runs away. And then, he runs out of the castle and everything, which, I mean, I don't blame him. If, objects started talking to me, I would be a little worried too. I'd be like, okay, well, I'm having a psychotic break or a panic attack, one of the two. I'm going to leave now. And he makes his way out into the garden where he's trying to flee, and he finds roses, which, he's like, this isn't working. I'm not going to be able to do the fair and everything. I can at least bring back a rose for Belle. And that's when, when he's trying to trim the rose to take it with him, that's when Beast shows up and terrifies the heck out of Maurice, and is basically, okay, yeah, no, I was going to give you food and let you leave, but now you're trying to take my roses, and now you're going to be, trapped. So he throws Maurice into the dungeon, of course, as usual. Most of it plays out the same from there. Belle turns down Gaston's, hand in marriage, and we get her, I want, the reprise of Belle, that I want much more than I can bear, or much more than what's here. And Philippe shows up, and then she rides off on Philippe to go and find her father, and she finds the castle. And of course, we are more introduced to the rest of the cast, Lumiere and Cogsworth and Mrs. Potts and Maestro Cadenza, who is the piano. We get a little bit more of a backstory on some of this toy, or on some of the objects. We get a little bit more introduced to the backstories of the different objects. We have Lumiere, of course, who in this case is the footman. Cogsworth is still kind of the butler. They're still all the same objects, so that didn't change. We're introduced to a few new characters. Maestro Cadenza, who is the piano, who was supposed to be like the composer, who, you know, in the first video I talked about, you know, Forte, who is supposed to be like the court composer. So Maestro Cadenza might be a bit of a reference back to that, but he's not a bad character in this one. And he had his wife, who was Madame de Garderobe, who is the who's the wardrobe. She was the one that turned in the wardrobe. She was kind of like the opera type singer that, you know, was married to him, and that they lived at the castle and everything. And, you know, and she has her dog Frou Frou, who is the reference to Sultan. We have Chapeau, who is just kind of like the valet type character. We have a few other characters. Instead of Fifi, we have Plumette, who is still the feather duster type character. Not too much is different there. Her and the Lumiere does not seem to have, I mean, like, he's still kind of slight flirty, but he's not as over the top flirty as he was with Belle and like any other girls that show up at the castle or any of the other female objects. He seems to have eyes very much only for Plumette, which makes that a bit sweeter of a love story, in my opinion. And we find out a little bit more about the characters in regards to the fact that they're slowly becoming more and more object. That the more time, of course, that they spend as the objects, the less human they are. And when the last petal falls, when the rose wilts, then they will all be left to just become antiques. And that is a very sad thing that they do with that. And of course that comes into play at the end of the movie, but it's also it's a bit of a thing that comes into play because it's like, Lumiere makes mention of, it's, harder for me to bend my arms at times, or, Cogsworth, at various points of time, his clock chimes without him wanting it to, different things like that. The wardrobe, Garderobe, de Garderobe, the Madame, who's the opera singer, as I said. She's kind of, what is it? She's narcoleptic, so she keeps falling asleep a lot. And, her husband, who's the Cadenza, who's the piano, hasn't been able to go up and see her. And, so that's a little bit harder for them to deal with. Whereas at least, Plumette and Mrs. Potts and Cogsworth and everything have the ability to kind of like move around the castle. The others don't necessarily. One of the gags that they do with the Maestro Cadenza, the piano, is that his teeth, of course, are the piano keys, because, teeth of the piano are the keys. And so if he plays too much, it hurts his teeth, which is just kind of a joke. Bad joke, but a joke. But of course, Belle makes her way to the castle and everything, and then, she makes the trade, I'll stay if my father gets to leave, I'll stay here with you. And Beast takes her up in the offer, and, Maurice gets sent back to the village and everything. And we do get a little bit more into the curse itself in regards at the beginning of the movie. It is stated that the curse is designed to not only make everybody in the castle kind of trapped in the castle type thing, it's also designed to make it that those that were in the village and everyone that knew about them forgot about them. So there's a man in the village, who I don't remember exactly what his name is off the top of my head. What his last name is, I don't remember. I remember what his last name is, but I don't remember what his first name was. But he always thinks that he's forgetting something, but he can't remember what it is that he's forgetting. Which, considering the fact that there's a few different Harry Potter characters, or Harry Potter actors that have ended it, because Emma Watson is Belle, and Emma Thompson, who was, Madame Trelawney, Professor Trelawney is Mrs. Potts. It's like, oh my God, it's a reference to Neville. I'm like, maybe in a roundabout way, but it's a reference to the curse and the fact that, that was a rule of the curse that they didn't explain in the original movie, that the people in the village forgot about everybody that was in the castle, even if they knew someone that lived in the castle, even if they were married to or friends with, or something of someone that lived in the castle, or that worked in the castle, they forgot about them. Um, but so Belle stays and she gets put into the very nice room and everything, and she's supposed to go and have dinner with the Beast, but she turns him down, of course, and that results in the arguing, of course. And then, of course, we still get Belle makes her way downstairs a little bit later. We still get the whole, over the top live action, computer animated splendor thing that is Be Our Guest, and it was wonderful. And yes, when I went and saw this in the theaters, I was trying my hardest not to sing along with it, and I'm like singing under my breath to, Belle and Be Our Guest and like all the other ones that I know. I'm just like, it's like singing under my breath to it. Like, I can do this. I cannot sing out loud. I can do this. I can do this. And then, of course, I'm the person where it's like when I'm watching the videos, when I'm watching the movies, even now, because I did this when I was a kid and watching them on VHS, I'm like, singing along with it. And I'm still doing that now, 20 some years later, almost 30 at this point. Oh, God. 20 some years later, singing along with it. And, still can do most of the words with, I got the music going. I can do it. I can do the karaoke for Disney. But we work through that. And then, of course, Belle still ends up going up to the West Wing, and she still finds the rose. And she, almost touches everything, gets scared off by the Beast, runs out, goes off, and, gets chased by the wolves. And the Beast shows up and saves her. And then she works on, because the Beast kind of gets a lot sicker than what happens in the original movie. The Beast in the original movie kind of seems to just get like claw marks all over him. In this one, he does get claw marks, but he also seems to get sick because he seems to have gotten very, very cold. So it's like hypothermia or, something along those lines that he ends up being sick with. And over the course of that part would have been where in the original movie was where there was something there and human again. Those songs, they don't get thrown out the window by any means, but there's a different song in this section that's called Days in the Sun, which is more sung by the staff. So it's kind of the human again song where it's like them remembering, the days in the sun when everything was happy and everything. And we get more of the princess backstory. And Belle kind of learns a little bit about the curse. They can't explain like how to break the curse, but they can kind of explain that, well, his father, he had, his mother loved him very much, and she loved him, or she loved the prince, and he loved her very much, but then she died, and he was left with his cruel father, who kind of tried to mold him into another version of himself, which was the very handsome, but very selfish, and to a degree cruel, prince that he ended up being, and that interacted with the enchantress and then got turned into the Beast, and they all got cursed in the process. And they're trying to tell Belle, it's not your problem to solve this. This is our thing to deal with. But in this course of time, we see Belle and Beast interact, and I think there is kind of a roundabout reference to the Human Again, because in Human Again, Belle is reading Romeo and Juliet to Beast. And Beast kind of demonstrates that he has a little bit more of a knowledge, a little bit more of an education, because he talks about, they kind of do a back and forth about Romeo and Juliet and a few other things. And so we still kind of get like the time passing in this, and, the staff cleaning the castle up more and more, and like the ballroom and all this. So we get like the time passing there, but then we also cut back to the village where we have, Gaston and LeFou, or we get the whole Gaston number, which gets a few extra bits added in, where we see like, LeFou is like, kind of bribing everybody in the bar to sing and everything about how great Gaston is. And we get the funny bit with LeFou trying to spell Gaston, and then he realizes, and it's like lines in the song, I just realized I'm illiterate and I don't know how to spell Gaston because I've never had to spell it before. And we get that whole bit, and then we have Maurice show up, and he's raving about Belle was taken by a beast in a castle and everything, and Gaston is like, I believe you, Maurice. How about we go and try to find Belle? Gaston is very much more trying to if he ingratiates himself to the father and he helps find Belle and save her, then Maurice will be maybe more willing to let Belle marry him, or have Belle marry, Belle marry Gaston. Um, so Gaston and LeFou and Maurice go off, and Maurice is like trying to backtrack his way through the woods for finding how he got to the castle in the first place. And after a while, it just basically results in LeFou and Gaston getting fed up, and he basically ties Gaston ties Maurice to a tree, and they leave him in the woods basically to be eaten by the wolves, because he's like, okay, you're crazy. And he's like, let's just first he's like, Gaston is like, I'm sure that Belle is perfectly safe and at home, and why don't we go and find her, and blah 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 blah. And Maurice is like, no, she's in the castle with the monster. I know where she is. Just have to find my way back there, and we can go and save her. And basically, Maurice kind of figures out that, oh, Gaston is doing this just to try to, win me over, to, get me to have Belle marry him whenever we find her, because he was concerned about her. And Maurice is basically like, I would never have my daughter marry you. And, that just makes Gaston very angry. And, Gaston ties Maurice to a tree, so that way Maurice is just kind of left in the woods, in the cold, at night, with wolves. And Gaston and LeFou head back to the village. Which is, fun. Not. So that's where it goes a little bit different. And then Maurice is found by the beggar Agatha, and she nurses him back to health and everything. But then we cut to Beast and Belle again, and we have Beast explain to Belle that, well, he has the mirror to the outside world, but then he also has this book. That was another thing that the Enchantress left. And he tells her, well, how about, we can take this book and it can take us anywhere, because it's supposed to be able to magically transport you somewhere. I don't know if there's supposed to be like a time limit for how long you're able to be there, but Belle takes them to the little kind of windmill house type thing that her and her father and her mother lived in when Belle was a baby, because she'd never seen it, and she kind of wants to know what happened to her mother. And we find out that her mother died of the plague, and that her father had to get Belle out of there before Belle and he got sick. So we see like the doctor with the plague mask and everything. And that's that's an emotional scene that they go through. And it starts off a little bit funny at the beginning, because we have like the Beast says, well, where are we? And Belle goes, Paris. And he goes, oh, I love Paris. I wonder if we can go to the opera. And then of course he figures out that, where are we? And then of course we get the realization of, that's a plague doctor's mask. And Belle figures out that, oh, my mother died of the plague and everything, and all that fun stuff. And then they go back, and then of course we still get the whole Beauty and the Beast, the ballroom scene with Belle, and oh god, Emma Watson made the dress. They made that dress so beautiful for her, and I loved it. Where they like transfer the live action, where they make the live action version of the dresses, because like Aurora's from the Sleeping Beauty remake that they did, or the Maleficent movies, that is to a degree like the color changing that they did for it kind of match what they do in the movie, but they also make her dresses a little bit more kind of based on Aurora is to a degree very much a flower child, so they kind of play up on that for the dresses that they put her in. And then of course the Cinderella live action one, her dress in that is very gorgeous as well. And then of course now we have this live action remake of this one. And Once Upon a Time we get a lot of those dresses as well. But for the moment, this is what we get for the live action ones. I think I mentioned in the Little Mermaid video that they are going to do a live action version of the Little Mermaid. And I know I forgot to mention this part, but Lin-Manuel Miranda, who did stuff for, In the Heights and Hamilton and Moana is writing a lot of the music for that. Or I'm assuming they're going to use some of the original stuff from the original Little Mermaid movie, but then they're also going to bring in some new songs and some new elements based on what Lin-Manuel Miranda comes up with, or put like his new spin on some of the songs, which I'm perfectly okay with. For the Beauty and the Beast movie, they did do some new songs. That was the A Day in the Sun, A Moment Lasts Forever, A Day in the Sun, or Days in the Sun, different things like that they added in. That was some stuff that was like, okay, well, some of the stuff was in the Broadway, so we'll move it into this one because the Broadway plays are a little bit longer than the actual movie was. So this one gets a little bit of an addition for some of that. But we get the whole ballroom scene between the two of them and them dancing, and it was perfect in my opinion for a live action version of it. And then of course, Belle sees, Beast lets Belle see the mirror, and in the mirror she kind of watches as Agatha had made Maurice better, and then Agatha took him back to the town, to the tavern in the town, where Maurice accuses Gaston of you tied me up and left me in the woods and everything. And of course the townsfolk are a little bit like, okay, well, did you really do this, Gaston? And I was like, well, there's no witnesses. And he's like, well, LeFou's a witness. And LeFou very much seems to have a crush on Gaston throughout the whole movie. Before the movie came out, they had stated that that they were going to make LeFou kind of an openly gay character. Well, he's not openly gay in the movie, but he's very obviously gay to those of us that are watching the movie, because he has a huge crush on Gaston. And Josh Gad did a great job of that. I'll go through the cast list at the end of the summary of the at the end of the summary part of the video, because the casting on this was great. But they go, Gaston basically butters up LeFou, and it's just like, he's my best friend and everything. And LeFou says, no, Maurice is lying. And Belle watches as they're about to, take her father and lock him up in the insane asylum, like they were going to do in the original movie, in the animated one. And Belle rushes off. Beast tells her, go, I release you. Go and save your father. Take the mirror so you can always look back and remember me, type thing. And Belle rides off, and we don't get her changing out of her dress. She's still in her ball gown at that point in time, because she's kind of running out of time, so she has to go and find her father. So she rides off on Philippe to go and do that. But then we get Beast's song, which is Evermore, which is, he knows that very, very soon the spell will be permanent and he will be nothing but a beast, with all the objects as nothing more than objects. All of the, they're not animated anymore. They don't have their souls, their hearts anymore. They'll be trapped as objects, and he'll be trapped in the castle until he I'm assuming either goes insane and kills himself or dies. Or he'll escape from the castle and go and end up terrorizing the countryside, type of thing, until either he dies or someone kills him. It's not 100% stated. I don't remember if they ever state specifically that the beast cannot leave the castle, or the castle grounds. I mean, he goes into the Black Forest to save Belle from the wolves and then brings her back. Well, she kind of brings him back. She takes him back to the castle in that case, but still, we don't know the whole ramifications for how far the beast is allowed to travel. I mean, he was able to travel to Paris via the book, and the book kind of implies that he could have traveled anywhere, but he's still a beast. But it's Beast lamenting the fact, and him basically saying that, yes, I do love you, and I will watch for you to come back, even though I know it will not happen, because it will give me hope and keep me going and everything. And we watch him climb all the way up to the top of the castle, the towers on the castle, as he watches Belle ride off to go and find her father. And she makes her way back to the village, and she, stops her father, and she reveals that, yes, the beast is real, by showing them the mirror and showing them, him appearing in the mirror. And of course, we still get the whole mob song again. which they locked Belle and Maurice up in the carriage that they were going to take Maurice to the insane asylum, saying that Belle is insane as well because she wants to protect the Beast, and even though, Beast is going to come, because the whole, Beast is going to come after your children and kill them in the night and take them and eat them or whatever. And everybody in the castle, everybody in the town, minus the one guy who's left to like guard the carriage, all right off. And we do get a little bit of lamenting from LeFou as he's watching Gaston, and he's like, I'm wondering if we're going after the right beast type thing. So it's, we see LeFou start to turning at this point. Start to, okay, maybe this is not what I should be doing. Which of course plays off later. But Belle had, Maurice like picks the lock on the outside of the carriage, which works after Belle explains. It was like, well, I have to unfind him again because he's changed. He's not what he was, and I need to save him type thing. And Maurice, helps her. He picks the lock with like her hairpin, and they get out of the carriage and everything. And they get out of the locked carriage, and Belle rides off to get to the castle and everything so she can save Beast. And all of the servants and everything in the castle, all the objects are, we get the whole fight scene against the villagers and everything. And at one point, Mrs. Potts is like pouring hot water on a bunch of people as she's like hanging from like a chandelier as it spins, and she's pouring hot water. And she sees a man who was the man before that kept saying, well, I can't remember what I forgot type of a thing. And she recognized him. She goes, oh, Mr. Potts. And that's, it's supposed to be that they were married before. Well, they are technically still married, but they were married before, she got turned into the, tea kettle. And and we see a few other things. And during the course of the battle, at one point, I think that it is Gaston ends up putting like LeFou between him and like one of the attacks that's coming at him, and that just basically makes LeFou change. And at one point, Mrs. Potts falls from wherever it was that she was, and LeFou catches her. And we get kind of a funny moment between the two of them. He's like, I'm changing sides. How can I help? type thing. And LeFou helps him, and we get this funny bit because there's like, the three stooges or whatever that kind of follow Gaston at whatever point. They end up inside the wardrobe, and so the wardrobe has a little bit more of a power of she can control fabric that comes out of her, because she does this to Belle a couple of times where she puts her in different dresses and everything. So the objects to a degree have a little bit more of an enchanted thing that happens in that case. But she takes like three of the stooges or whatever that kind of follow Gaston around, and she puts them into the pretty outfits and everything, and then one of them is like, oh, like he likes it. And so it's like all of the objects are fighting back and everything, and all of the villagers end up running off, but Gaston is still in the castle. And we get the whole, Gaston and Beast fight their way around the castle and everything. And, Beast still ends up getting stabbed, and Belle still shows up. And she, Gaston kind of tried to trick the Beast and saying, oh, she sent me here to kill you because she doesn't love you, she loves me, type thing, which is not true. Beast kind of believes it for a little bit, but then Belle shows up, and she, is reunited with Beast, and she's exclaiming, no, I didn't send him here to hurt you. I want you to be okay. I want to save everybody in the castle and you and everything. And we have, Beast and Gaston are fighting and everything, and kind of the climax of it is where, Beast gets stabbed and Gaston still falls to his death. All the villagers have escaped, and all of the objects, or the main ones that we've seen, are kind of all slowly turning into their, antique forms, because the rose is wilting. Like everything's all happening at once, and the rose is wilting, and the last petal is falling, and Lumiere, Cogsworth fully turns into a clock, and Lumiere fully turns into a candelabra, and Le Plume turns into the feather duster, and like all the other objects get fully turned into their object form. They don't have any more of the ability to move, and they're kind of gone. Chapeau, who is the hat rat, kind of prevents Chip from breaking and is able to, get him back with, Mrs. Potts. So at least the two of them are together. And the wardrobe and the Cadenza are finally almost reunited, but then they're, turned into their, full object forms and trapped in that case. Which it's like if you've seen Beauty and the Beast, you kind of know what's still gonna happen. They're gonna be okay, but it's still like the same thing of. It's like if you watch Endgame or Infinity War, because it's like Infinity War. If you watch it the first time and everything, it's the first time through, you're like, okay, what's gonna happen? And then you see everybody turn to dust, and then you watch, but even if you watch it through again and again and again, it's still kind of like. That's those very sad moments, and then you still get that again when you watch like Endgame. When you watch Endgame, at the end when it's like, okay, so you get the whole, stuff happens with Natasha and stuff happens here, and then everybody comes back, and then stuff happens with Tony, and you still get all those moments and everything, and it's like it doesn't necessarily. It's like you still know that it's coming, so it might lessen it a little bit, but if it's still those impactful moments. But of course, we get Belle proclaiming that she does love the Beast, and Beast already proclaimed that he loved her, and she, don't go, you can't leave me, I love you, type thing, all of that, and it gets revealed that Agatha was the Enchantress the entire time, and she, uses her magic because Belle said that she loved the Beast, and that proved that, and Beast had already said that he loved Belle earlier, and Agatha uses her magic to, turn the Beast back into his human form and heal him, and all of the objects get turned back into their human selves, so they're all reunited with everybody, with each other, and they're all safe and happy. And then we get the reveal of, all of the villagers remembering that, oh yeah, Mr. Potts, who I don't remember exactly, I don't think he was the baker, but he was like someone else in town, gets reunited with Mrs. Potts and Chip, and then we find out that Cogsworth had a wife, and she was this, crotchety, angry lady, which I think was like the three daughters that are the reference to the Bimbettes or whatever. And she's like so happy to see Cogsworth, but Cogsworth is like, let me turn back into a clock. Let me turn back into a clock. Because he's like, oh God, I was free of her for however long, but now I have to deal with her again. And then we get the whole celebration at the end of it, which I love, because we get Belle into the beautiful white dress with like the flowers all over it, and everybody's happy, and all the different couples are reunited, and we get kind of the reprise of Beauty and the Beast with a few other little lines added in, and it's just beautiful what they did. And I just love that, and I love at the end of I love that the joke that they end on. Well, one of the jokes is that LeFou ends up dancing with like the guy that got turned pretty, and that's like, okay, LeFou and him can be happy together and they'll be fine because LeFou changed and he's fine. But then we had at the end of it, the beat that they end the movie on is like Belle and Beast are dancing, and she's like, they're like, well, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go and everything? But like Belle and Beast are dancing, of course. And she's like, what would you say about growing a beard? And he kind of, and he like roars or whatever, kind of growls or whatever, which there's a lot. I mean, like there is that concept, there's the concept out there. Of course, there's the concept out there of, if, Belle still loved Beast, but he didn't change back. Like like everybody else in the castle got changed back, but Beast didn't change back. What kind of a relationship would that be? Or the fact that, yes, he got turned back into his human form and everything, but he still has, Beast type tendencies. Not that he would like hurt Belle, like, like, I don't know, I guess like claw her or bite her or something like that. I mean, she might like that, but that's not what we're talking about. But there's lots of story or lots of concepts of that. what if Beast didn't change back? But we get all that, and then of course we get the end credit version of Beauty and the Beast, which is sung by Ariana Grande and John Legend, which I've seen the music video. I like the music video. I do find Ariana Grande's dress in the music video a bit much, but I still like it. Then of course we have the cast list. Emma Watson as Belle, of course. Dan Stevens as the Beast and the Prince. Luke Evans as Gaston. Kevin Kline as Maurice. Josh Gad as LeFou. Ewan McGregor as Lumiere, which him doing the French accent as Lumiere is just funny. Stanley Tucci as Maestro Cadenza. Audra McDonald as Madame de Garderobe. Lady as Plymouth, and unfortunately I cannot pronounce her name. Ian McKellen as, Cogsworth. Emma Thompson as Mrs. Potts. Just like they did a great job on all of the casting on this, and I loved it. Okay, moving on to Once Upon a Time. So, our first inclination, so technically the first character we meet from the Beauty and the Beast story is Beast, because we meet Rumple way back at the beginning of it. And then partway through the first season, we are introduced to the fact that, not only is he kind of the crocodile from the Captain Hook myth, which we still don't quite get that at this point in time in the story, but we get that a little bit later. But not only is he this manipulative thing in the background, he's also the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, because he takes Belle. He goes and makes a deal with Belle's father of, I will protect your lands and everything if you give me your daughter. And, Belle agrees, because she's like, I can at least protect my people. And Beast and, Rumple takes her back to his castle, where she is supposed to clean the castle and tend to him and all this other stuff. And we watched their kind of relationship develop. There is no Mrs. Potts in this. There is still Chip, who is the little cup, because at one point Belle is trying to serve him tea, and unfortunately the cup falls because he said something of like, and you will prepare and skin the children that I eat. He doesn't do that. Rumpelstiltskin doesn't do that. But I'm just like, in her mind, he probably could. But that's not what Rumple does. But that kind of like throws Belle off a little bit, and she drops the cup and it chips a little bit. And she's like, it chipped a little bit, I'm sorry. And he's like, well, it's just a cup. But then later on, we do see Belle and him. Belle kind of, we start kind of getting a little bit more of the romance comes between them, and they get to know each other and everything. And then he kind of gives Belle a test, because he sends her to go into town to buy him straw for him to spin to turn into gold, because that's one of the things that Rumpelstiltskin does, of course, is he turns straw into gold. And she goes off, and she ends up running into Regina. And Regina says, well, the best way to break a curse or a spell is, true love's kiss. So, if you really love him and you kiss him, then, there you go. And Belle kind of believes that. And Rumple thought that she wasn't going to return because it was a test. And he, if she returns, yay. If she doesn't return, then that's fine. He still wasn't going to like it, but she returns and she tries to kiss him. And that unfortunately doesn't go the way that it should. It kind of starts, because when Rumple is in his Rumple form, when we see him all in the Enchanted Forest and everything in the flashbacks, he has like the scaly type greenish skin, which is why he's called Crocodile later on by Captain Hook. But he has like the scaly type greenish skin and everything. And, Belle kisses him, and then it starts to fade. He starts to look more and more normal. But he doesn't like that, because he likes having the power that he had, and he gets angry at Belle, and he makes her leave, and he banishes her from the castle type thing. And that makes him extremely angry. And I don't remember if exactly, because I know it's later on, it's Regina shows up and says, oh, well, Belle went back to her father, but with the amount of time that she was here and everything, he locked her in a tower, and then, tried to have so many things, priests and everything come in and like purify her and everything, and it didn't work, and she eventually jumped and died. And which is not what happened to Belle. But she makes Rumple think that. to make him angry, and he ends up like breaking a ton of different things. But the one thing that he can't bring himself to break, he like smashes the tea set. But the one thing that he can't bring himself to smash is the cup. The cup that had the chip in it that happened with Belle, because that's his symbol for her. And he puts that, and he has like a cabinet that he keeps all of his very important things in, and that's where he puts that. And we find out later on, well, at one point, Belle ends up having an interaction with Grumpy, because Grumpy like fell in love with the fairy. As I mentioned way back in the Snow White video, Grumpy fell in love with the fairy, and Belle kind of gives him encouragement of, you know, I use the line as the quote at the end of this video, but it's like, if you have love, don't let it go. Love is hope, type of a thing. So that line will be at the end of the video, but that's what we have there. When everybody was brought to Storybrooke, Belle didn't have a memory, and she was trapped in kind of the asylum. She had amnesia, and she's trapped down in like the basement of the hospital, in like the asylum area, in a cell, so she can't leave. And that doesn't go so well, because at the end of the first season, Jefferson, who is the Mad Hatter, reference back to the Alice in Wonderland video, played by Sebastian Stan, who's Bucky in Marvel, blah 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 blah. Releases her and tells her, okay, I'm going to get you out of here, and all I want you to do is I want you to go and find Mr. Gold and tell him that Regina put you in here. And that makes Rumple extremely angry. He's like extremely happy to see her, but she doesn't have her memory back yet and everything. And we do see it where, because the correlation of this is that Henry got poisoned, and Emma kisses him to wake him up, and that results in the true love's kiss that was needed, which, brings everybody's memory back and everything. And then Belle remembers Rumple, and she reveals that she remembers him, and Rumple is so happy and everything. And then he uses part of a potion that he had to bring magic into this world, because Rumple has a very long game plan that he's working on, so he does this. So they're working on that, but Belle and him are kind of reunited, and they go through so much stuff throughout the course of the series. She gets her memory lost at some point again, because she gets shot, and she almost dies, but she doesn't, but she loses her memory, and then Regina or someone puts a new memory in her head that makes her think she's something else, and Rumple still kind of falls for her, but then he fixes her by getting her real memory back of being Belle, and we get more of their backstory and more of them interacting with each other, and more and more and more, and Rumple slowly becomes better and better and better, because he wants to make Belle happy, because she doesn't like him being the Dark One. And he wants her to be happy and wants her to be with him, but he also knows that if I'm not the Dark One, I don't have my power, but I want to be with Belle, and stuff happens with that, and with his son Neil, Balefire. And then at some point, don't remember what season it was, I don't remember if it was season 5 or 6 or whatever, don't remember, we only just finished up season 1, started on season 2, rewatching everything, I'll figure out whatever happens. But at one point, after a whole bunch of other stuff taken care of, Rumple has very much kind of proven that he does want to be a hero. He's gotten so much better. Him and Belle get married. Him and Belle finally get married. And her father is there. They had the Rumple and her father had a whole thing. But he's there, and he gives her away at the wedding, because he's finally, okay, you've proven yourself. My daughter loves you. Fine. And they get married, and they do beautiful vows, and I'm not going to read the vows because I'm pretty sure it would make me cry, but this is what they are. If you want, you can pause the video and read this. These are the vows that they use, and I loved it. It was one of my favorite moments in Once Upon a Time, is when Belle and Rumple finally get married. And one of my other favorite moments in Once Upon a Time is Belle and Rumple go on a honeymoon type thing. And they stay in Storybrooke for the honeymoon, but there's this new mansion that got brought there because there's like cursed and uncursed and cursed and other curses and blah 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 blah. There's a new mansion there in Storybrooke, and they go there. And what Beast does is we get, or what Rumple does is we kind of get like a two-part thing, because at some point in the past, when they were in the Enchanted Forest, when he was still the Dark One, um, she and him danced at one point, and then now, so many years later, in our world in Storybrooke, they dance again. Beast, Rumple, Gold, at this point he's Gold, has the phonograph going to play, and I do think they use Beauty and the Beast in the background for the song that they have them dancing. There's no singing, but I do think they use that as the melody in the background, and they do the waltz, and it's the slow version of the song, not the kind of more poppy version like they use at the beginning or at the end of the first Beauty and the Beast movie, and then at the end of the live action one. This happened before the live action movie came out, but still, it's more the waltz version of it, I think, that they use. But like, he puts himself into kind of like the blue suit that Beast has, and he puts Belle into the yellow dress, and I love it. And it's just another one of my favorite moments in Once Upon a Time, is them waltzing around this manor, and it's wonderful. But then they get pregnant. Belle gets pregnant, and there's a whole thing that happens with that, revealing more of Rumple's past and a whole bunch of other issues that happen. But they do have the baby, and they have a son, and they name him Gideon. But then he's kidnapped by Rumple's mother, who is the Black Fairy, who is evil and takes him to another dimension where he grows up, and then he brings him back, and then he's turned into like an agent for his evil grandmother, and things happen. But then by the end of it, he gets turned back into a baby, and then Belle and Rumple actually get to raise him, and we kind of get Rumple kind of continues into the final season of Once Upon a Time, where he gets turned into Weaver. Rumple kind of continues into the final season of Once Upon a Time, where he gets turned into Detective Weaver, and him and Hook, alternate Hook, finally into like working together and like fixing themselves and becoming better friends and allies and everything. And Rumple ends up sacrificing himself to save them. But we get a bit more of like what happened to Belle, because she wanted to find a way to release Rumple from being the Dark One, fully release him so he can move on. And they end up at this like waterfall that's at like the edge of everything, after they like traveled around the human world, because there's like a scrapbook at some point that shows that they traveled around so many different places in our world, and then they ended up in this other realm where they went to the edge of everything, and like Gideon comes back and visits them a lot. And then Belle got old, and unfortunately Belle died, but she's waiting for him. And Belle basically becomes his guiding light, his northern star, his compass, his true north, whatever you want to call it. And he does good. He does good as Weaver, and he, becomes friends with Alice, that was Hook's daughter, and all this other stuff happens, and Rumple sacrifices his own heart in order to give Hook a new heart, because Hook's heart was poisoned, and then Rumple dies. And we get the bit at the end, Rumple does finally get his happy ending, where he has Belle, where they are reunited finally. And they're in the yellow dress and the blue suit and everything at the end. And they're finally reunited, and everything gets to be okay again for those two. They get their happy ending. Gideon grew up and got to be good, and have his parents, and we get all of that, and I just love what they did with that, how they arranged that, for the way that Belle is now Belle and Beast, Belle and Rumple finally get to be together in the afterlife, and Rumple proved himself that he is good, and I loved that. I think that's about all that we have for this. So, slight goof on my part. I forgot to mention the Descendants section for the Beauty and the Beast section for Descendants. So, we of course have King Beast and Queen Belle, who are the king and queen of the United States of Oridon. So they are kind of like the very, very main, you know, they're the top rulers of it. And they have their son, Ben, another case of the people who do not understand the concept of just because your name starts with B does not mean you have to have your child's name start with the same letter. Whatever. So we have Belle, and we have King Beast, Queen Belle, King Beast. The lady that plays Belle in this is also the same lady that played the Blue Fairy in Once Upon a Time, so I just kind of find that funny. But we have King Beast, again, never given a name. You'd think they could have given the man a name. But then we have Prince Ben, who, of course, he's the catalyst for everything that happens in Descendants, because he's the one that he's going to become king soon. He's the one that makes the decision of, let's bring over these villain kids and have them prove that they can be good, which, of course, results in him getting expelled by Mal, but then actually kind of falling in love with Mal, and they go through their whole relationship throughout the whole movies. He gets expelled by Uma at one point after him and Mal break up, but then that gets fixed because Mal does proclaim her love for him. And, you know, at the beginning of the third movie, he proposes to Mal, and she says yes, and, you know, that ends up being another catalyst for other things. But then at one point, Ben gets turned into a beast form by Audrey, like his father had been, and he kind of goes on a bit of a rampage. But they still find him, and he gets to be okay, and they fix him. And then, of course, Ben, at the end of the third movie, is about Mal and Ben. You know, so they have their big engagement party, and that's when, you know, Mal proclaims, you know, it was like, I can't be just Queen of Oridon, I have to be Queen of Oridon and the Isle. And that results in Mal, or Ben and the others, lowering the barrier, and everybody from the Isle can now leave the Isle. And Ben has to deal with the fact that Hades is his father, soon-to-be father-in-law, which is very funny. And at some point, he'll probably have to deal with the fact that, you know, Maleficent is now going to be his mother-in-law. And, you know, Belle and Beast have to deal with the fact of, okay, now we have a god and a dragon lady as our son's parents-in-law. This is going to be an interesting relationship. But at the beginning, Beast and Belle do seem a bit hesitant on Mal. But that does end up turning around. In the second movie, they show to be much more, they show that they like Mal quite a bit. And then they seem to be very, very supportive of Mal and Ben getting engaged in the third one. And even, you know, very supportive at the end of the third movie in regards to Mal and Ben lowering the barrier. Because they've kind of all learned of, you know, where you come from doesn't determine what you are, which is kind of the lesson of the Descendants movies of, you know, just because you're born in the good place doesn't mean you're always going to be good. Just because you're born in the bad place doesn't mean you're going to be bad. It's not always nurture and nature. It's what you're given the chance to do. And if given the chance, good can always become bad, but bad can always become good. And there's no point in trying to force someone into one role or the other. So, yeah, little mini addition in there, since I kind of forgot about that when I was recording it the first time around. So this will get added in. So, yeah, back to the rest of the video. Sorry, bye. I think I covered everything that I needed to cover in this one. Oh, tiny bit. Should have put this in the background. I forgot about it, and I kept thinking about it every time that I do a video because it's right in my eye lines. Give me 1 second. Belle. It's not a pop vinyl, but it was adorable, and I got it, and it's just so cute. So cute. No, Belle can stay here while I say goodbye. So that's what we have. The next videos will be about Aladdin. Although I think I might be making, yeah, the next videos will be about Aladdin. That's probably going to be a two-parter as well, because there's the original, the two sequels, the animated series, the live-action movie that they did, the little bits that's in Once Upon a Time, extra stuff, blah, 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 blah. We'll see what happens with that. So, from me and Belle, spin. So for me and Belle, thank you for watching. I hope you like the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye. Love is hope. It fuels our dreams. If you're in it, you need to enjoy it, because love doesn't always last forever.